Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I will show you how I approach a painting from sketch to finished piece. Usually I do some sketches and thumbnail sketches and some brainstorming in a Royal Talent sketchbook to work my idea out. I love using that type of sketchbooks for that. I also take notes, like for example what materials I want to use or what things I want to incorporate into the painting. For this painting, the process was very quick. I knew I wanted to incorporate some pumpkins and skulls, obviously because I wanted to paint something for Halloween. Initially, I wanted to draw a little witch trick-or-treating, but it turned into a couple holding hands dressed up and trick-or-treating together. After I'm done with a sketch that I'm happy with, I take a photo with my iPad and bring the sketch into Procreate to do a more clean, detailed sketch for me to print out, because when I do paintings on good quality paper, I don't want to sketch directly on the good paper and erase a million times and ruin the surface. So once I'm in Procreate, I do one rough sketch where I work out some more ideas, and then on a separate layer I do the final line work that I will then print out and trace on watercolor paper using a lightbox. A good sketch will make the painting process much easier. I've learned that the hard way, thinking I don't need a super detailed sketch to get to the painting quicker, but adjusting things in the middle of painting is very difficult, and depending on what is wrong, maybe proportions, you won't be able to fix that at all, and you're not only going to waste more time but also materials. I know we all get impatient, but with art you need to take your time and enjoy the process. Now the next step isn't something I always do, but for this one I wanted to try out a color palette that looked good together. I wanted to be more prepared for when I started painting, so I wouldn't have to think about what colors I will be using while working on the illustration. It was very good having a kind of guide to look at as reference. I thought I would try out different color combinations, but I was happy with the first one, and so I went with that one. I love using Procreate as a tool to help me with planning for traditional art, because there you won't waste materials, so you can't go wrong experimenting there. So for this painting I will be using Arches hot pressed paper, because I really love working with colored pencils on top of watercolors. Cold pressed paper isn't suited for this type of mixed media painting. Before tracing the sketch to the paper, I secure the printed sketch with washi tape behind my watercolor paper sheet so it won't move and shift while I'm tracing. Before starting painting, I covered some small details like the stars with some masking fluid. I used my Van Gogh watercolor palette for this painting. The palette is their regular 24 set plus a bunch of colors that I added into the palette to adjust it to my needs. I really love the quality of these paints. I always activate them with water before starting to paint to get more creamy pigments. Doing the foliage in the back with all the autumn colors was super fun to do. I tried to mix in as many different shades of colors in there to really get those fall vibes. And since it's in the background, you don't have to paint perfect trees and leaves, but quickly lay down colors that flow into each other. Painting autumn scenes have turned out to be some of my all-time favorite things to paint. For the sky, I tried to do a kind of gradient that goes from lighter at the bottom to darker at the top to show that it is turning into nighttime and becoming darker. I had to do a couple of layers to get an even result. I took my time with it, let everything dry fully in between the layers, and keeping in mind the dark on the top and light on the bottom and trying to blend in between them. I have to admit I had some trouble painting on this paper and get flat colors because I'm used to cold press paper. In the past couple of months I've been working almost only on cold press paper with watercolors only. So this painting was good practice to get back to how I used to paint a couple of years ago, which is watercolor and color pencils on top. I also know that I have to go through the ugly stage of a painting to get to the good part. I'm just patient and keep layering. On the first layer I used more water, and the more layers I added, the less water I used mixed with my watercolor paints. That way you will build some solid color without reactivating the layer underneath. For the rest of the watercolor process I went with flat colors as I had planned them out. On the pumpkins and skulls I did more shading with the watercolors, but for the rest I wanted to add shading and the details in with colored pencils. While I was painting the sky, some of the blue color landed on the clouds and moon. I should have been more careful around there, but later on it kind of worked in my favor because I used that blue as a kind of shading, which you will see in the end. So as Bob Ross said, we don't make mistakes, we just have happy little accidents, which always turns out to be true. For this illustration I ended up using a mix of different colored pencils, but mostly the Caran d'Ache Luminance. I don't use them very often, so I thought I might bring them out again. I have the full set of them and they are super expensive, so I'm a bit afraid to use them all up quick. Since they are a soft light pencil, because they are wax based, you will go through pencils quicker, but not using them at all is not what art materials are there for, especially if you decided to invest that much money into a full set. So I have a couple of ideas on how to use them in future projects. So anyways, since I wanted an overall muted color palette, these are perfect for that. I also used some Faber-Castell Polychromos and some Derwent Colorsoft. Polychromos are my favorite pencils to use. I wasn't too familiar with the Derwent Colorsoft range of color pencils. Last time I went to an art store, I bought a couple of colors to try them out and I really like them so far. Especially for this illustration, I had this lavender lilac color which was perfect for this illustration. Since the watercolor layer turned out a bit patchy, especially on the clothes, the colored pencils helped me a lot to achieve a smooth flat color, especially the Luminance and the Derwent pencils, because they are wax based, so blending was perfect with them. I tried to keep everything very playful and simple. I didn't want this painting to look realistic but like an illustration, so the details on the faces and shadings are kept simple. I also left some colored pencil texture here and there, especially on the pumpkins, which is something that I almost never do because I always want that super smooth blended look. But I really like the texture on this one, and it has been something that I kind of wanted to step away from, especially when doing illustrations. I tend to overwork areas way too much at times. This year I feel a solid change in my drawing and painting approach. I feel more confident and loose while making art. I feel more free. I don't know if it's because I'm more experienced or because I'm having a lot of fun creating, but since I've let go of the mindset that everything has to be perfect, I like and enjoy my art more, and it looks better because I feel like it doesn't look forced or stiff. It looks more loose. I try to simplify things and not go insane with overdoing and with details. At least that's what I've noticed about me and my art in the last couple of months. Also, I forgot to mention that I didn't want to just paint the couple trick-or-treating, but the initial plan was to design an illustration poster for Halloween. That's why I designed the border around the trick-or-treaters that way. I made sure to keep the edges clean. Initially I wanted to put masking fluid all around, but then decided not to. I paid attention not to paint outside the edges of the sketch, and it worked. I also thought I would outline the border with a gold gel pen, but then I skipped that idea, and I'm glad I did because I think that would have been way too much. I really liked the style of the border. Doing the details on the pumpkins at the bottom was my favorite part. Using the luminance pencils together with the polychromos worked very well. The luminance pencils blend very easy, and with the polychromos you can get those perfect sharp little details. The pumpkins I drew for the border were actually sketches I did for last year's Halloween video. The sketches didn't make it into last year's illustrations, but since I like these sketches so much, I used them for this painting and they fit perfect. Also, I think the pumpkin with the mice turned out super cute, and they have my signature vintage vibe to it. Also, that's why I like using sketchbooks and sketching out ideas. You can always go and look back at older sketches and use ideas you thought you would never turn into something more than a random doodle. Also, here on the clouds and moon, you see how I told you I accidentally got some blue off the sky in there, and I used it as some sort of shadows and texture in the clouds. I really like how I managed to fix that and how it came out. I also added some more colors in the background foliage because it dried a bit too light for my liking, so I needed a bit more saturation in there. Once I was done with everything, I wasn't very happy with the grass part, so I went over that section with some green colored pencils and did a type of gradient thing there as well, with light at the bottom and darker on the top part. That helped a lot because the painting looked unfinished up to that point. For some final touch-ups, I added some ink pen for the banner and some gold pen for the lettering and the stars. I also used a white gel pen and a white Posca pen for some highlights here and there. I had a lot of fun with this illustration. I love how the colors look. I wanted a more muted color palette, but actually it turned out very vibrant and saturated, and I really like that. I feel like I achieved the more muted palette with a vintage vibe for the border, and even though the border and the inner illustration have kind of two different styles, they ended up looking very cool together. This wasn't done on purpose, it just turned out that way, and it goes very well together. So anyways, I hope you will have a lot of fun during Halloween. If you want some more Halloween drawings from me, go watch last week's video or last year's Halloween video, which I will link up here. I will go spend the rest of the day watching some old horror movies. So thank you so much for watching. See you guys in my next video. Have a nice day. Bye bye guys.